For my JTC playlist series, one of my most requested bands is Pink Floyd. And to that I say, how would that even work? I am a huge Pink Floyd fan. They may very well be my favorite band of all time, yes, even more so than the Beatles. But unlike the Beatles, Pink Floyd just doesn't lend itself to a singles playlist. Outside of the Syd Barrett era, Pink Floyd is an album band. The best way to listen to Floyd is listening to their albums in one sitting. Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Metal, Animals, The Wall, even The Division Bell. They all revolve around one conceptual piece. Their albums are written and crafted specifically for a vinyl record. The first time I heard Dark Side of the Moon was on my father's original copy, which I still have. The songs are all like one interconnected piece of music, interrupted only to flip the record over. They borrow themes and motifs from each other. Dark Side of the Moon is the gold standard of the concept album. Everything builds up to that climax. How can you possibly convey that with a couple songs on a playlist? The Wall as well. A lot of these songs don't really have the same punch when they stand on their own. Sure, Brick in the Wall Part 2 and Comfortably Numb work nicely on their own, but it's not like you're gonna add One of My Turns or Waiting for the Worms on its own without context. It's a rock opera. The songs all tell a story. In fact, not understanding the story is exactly why the Nostalgia Critics video of The Wall was panned. I did run into a similar issue with compiling some of the Who's material, specifically Tommy and Quadrophenia, but the singles from those work in conjunction with songs like My Generation or Magic Bus. Inevitably, anytime you break songs apart from an album, you're gonna lose a little bit of magic, but I think it's completely lost on a Floyd compilation. I'll give you a perfect example of why this doesn't work. Us and Them from Dark Side is one of their best numbers. Now you could just fade up as the organ comes in and it would still work, but the way it transitions into Any Color You Like is my favorite part of the album. So does that mean you're gonna have to include Any Color You Like as well if you want to include Us and Them? And then what about Brain Damage, which segues directly afterwards? And then what about Eclipse? And for that matter, why not just put the whole album on there? In fact, the abrupt ending of Us and Them is one of my biggest gripes with their Echo's Greatest Hits compilation. To me, this would be like taking a scene from The Godfather, another scene from Pulp Fiction, and then another scene from Lord of the Rings and trying to make it work as one movie. It just doesn't make any sense. Also, most of my favorite Pink Floyd songs are simply too long for a restricted playlist. Remember, I format these compilations like a vinyl record, and the song Echoes takes up one entire side of Metal. Dogs takes up nearly an entire side of Animals. Shine On You Crazy Diamond, possibly my vote for the greatest composition, is two separate pieces about 13 minutes each that open and close Wish You Were Here. If I was going by my vinyl compilation restrictions, you'd put Echoes on side A and Shine On You Crazy Diamond as side B, and that's the playlist. 2 songs. On Pink Floyd's Echoes compilation, they had to crossfade songs or shorten things just to make it work. The only takeaway I really got from that compilation is that it was my introduction to Syd's songs, which like I said, work well enough because they were single songs. But that's just one short era of Pink Floyd's career. If you really want to get into Pink Floyd, I say just listen to one of their albums in one sitting. Dark Side is how I got going, but maybe Wish You Were Here or The Wall is more up your alley. Or maybe you can watch Pink Floyd's Live at Pompeii to get a sense of their earlier experimental period. But since you all insist on me covering Floyd, I've decided to try my hand at a compilation, though I'm not going to go into great detail this time. So here, briefly, is my Pink Floyd list formatted like a vinyl record. We'll start off with one of Syd Barrett's tracks, Astronomy Domine, and yes, that's the way Roger Waters pronounces it. This is the opening track to 1967's Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which connects nicely to their later output on account of the space theme. Syd's punk-like guitar lines are very innovative for the time, Nick Mason's tribal drumming adds a lot of power, and Rick Wright's keyboards and vocal harmonies are the secret ingredient to this gem. Because they went through a long stretch following Syd's departure trying to find their new sound, we're gonna skip to 1971's Metal and include the rocking opener One of These Days, driven by Roger Waters' echoing bass line and featuring David Gilmour on slide guitar. Here's a deep cut off of their overlooked Obscured by Clouds soundtrack album, Burning Bridges, written by Rick. I always loved the way Dave and Rick's voices were used in the early Floyd albums, and this song is a great showcase of that. along with Dave's soft guitar lines. A pair of songs that kinda work well on their own from Dark Side are Time going into Great Gig in the Sky. This is almost like the defining moment of Pink Floyd, where every band member gets a chance to shine. Roger including some of his best lyrics in Time, and props to guest vocalist Claire Torrey on Great Gig. I guess that's not a bad side one, but side 2 is going to be tougher to manage. I guess I should include Money, since that was their big single, anchored by a 7/4 bass riff from Roger. It's one of Dave's defining moments with the band, lots of killer blues solos. It just breaks my heart that I can't go into Us and Them, but we can use the opening radio static of Wish You Were Here as a transition. Another classic riff of theirs written by Dave, with Roger's lyrics being cited as a tribute to Syd Barrett, though it may have also been about the imminent disillusionment of the band. We're gonna jump right to The Wall and include their big hit single, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. And just to make it feel more complete, we'll precede it with Happiest Days of Our Lives, which is usually how they would feature these songs on rock radio. The disco beat was almost mandatory in 1979, but it still feels very Floyd, with lyrics against the educational indoctrination system and another standout solo by Dave Gilmour. We have time for one more song, so I'm going to include one of my favorites from The Division Bell, an uplifting tune written by Dave himself called Coming Back to Life. I've really found this song to be a necessity in the darkest moments in my life, and probably owe a lot to it for inspiring many of my own songs. When I thought long and hard about how I would fit in epic tunes like Echoes, I realized the only way to include them would be as bonus tracks, which don't have any time restrictions. So instead of bonus tracks, I'd probably call it an epic disc, made up of like-minded songs. And these would include the longer live rendition of Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun from Live at Pompeii. I love that extended break with all those soundscapes coming from Rick's keyboards and Dave's slide guitar. And thankfully the performance is on Spotify if you want to check it out. Man, I could talk forever about Echoes. A few people have actually called my Elements piece a modern-day Echoes, which I consider an enormous compliment. The way Echoes evolves from the opening ping of the piano played through a Leslie, to Dave and Rick's harmonized words written by Roger, to that funky jam, those soundscapes, that Pet Sounds flavored keyboard piece, it's all a work of genius. I can only include one part of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, so I'm just gonna go with the first part, which includes nearly 9 minutes of instrumental music before Roger finally starts singing a tribute to Syd. Also credit Dick Perry for that gorgeous sax solo. If you want a slightly more complete version, check out the live version from Pulse with Dave singing. Dogs from Animals is the album's standout track, written by Dave originally as You Gotta Be Crazy. It's another epic that explores the dark nature of humankind's ruthless need to climb the ladder. I would have included Comfortably Numb in the main list if I could have found a way to fit it in, but its epic nature does lend it to be included here. It's arguably their most famous tune, and for good reason, chronicling the main character Pink, a rock star, being medicated by a doctor so the show can go on. Dave's solo is a staple of rock history. This was also the last song they all performed together on stage. High Hopes from The Division Bell will conclude this list, which used to be the very last song Pink Floyd ever recorded until The Endless River came out. With Nick setting the pulse with a church bell, Dave's lyrics, aided by his wife Polly Sampson, are slightly autobiographical about his early Cambridge days, though others, myself included, have interpreted it to be Pink Floyd's division with Roger Waters. Dave's pedal steel solo might be one of his best, which I quoted in my own song Shake It Off, not to be confused with Taylor Swift's. So that's the best I could do, and even then I'm not particularly happy with this playlist. I feel like I'd need a lot of time to devote to Pink Floyd's catalog.